our weather forecast today.
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. Just the perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.
Yeah, sunny days, sunny days, sunny days. No clouds in the sky, but again, away feels like it's been a freaking decade.
Welcome back to the Social Beaches podcast. I'm Kelly Bowling. Stumbled a bit there.
Yeah, right. I'm Carolyn Smith. We're with the Coastal Estate Team.
We sell real estate in Brevard County and Indian River County, Sebastian, Vero Beach, those areas. So.
The Space Coast and the Treasure Coast. Blah, 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 blah. What is with us today? The Treasure Coast.
It's a Monday. We don't normally do Mondays.
Yeah, Tuesdays are better.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about the market as far as it relates to our local market here in Brevard County with specifically single-family homes is what I'm focused on, but I feel like in general the market. And then also interest rates. And everybody's all up in arms about these high interest rates that we have. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too.
Yes.
To start, we haven't had our official stats released yet by our local MLS, but I went in and I ran some numbers for the month of May because we're in June now, but by the time you see this, I think it'll be maybe July.
Yes.
In May of 2023, we had 316 new listings hit the market, which is not a lot. It's actually a 30% decrease from last year. Yeah.
30%. 30% is huge. And
That's
when
a
we
big drop.
look, when we have people looking, there's not inventory.
No,
there's
nothing
not
to show
inventory.
them. Every now and again, you'll have one pop up and it's like, ooh, let's go see that. And it's, maybe not the right fit. I feel like in my experience lately with my buyers, they're being more picky.
Yes.
Even though there's not a lot of inventory, they're being very selective and they're not feeling, how when we didn't have inventory before and everybody's like, let me just grab that. I'll pay whatever you want me to pay. I'll sell you my first child, like that sort of thing.
I'll make the compromises.
Right. And now I feel like people are being very, very selective.
And they can't really be and you can't be afraid of multiple offers. Like I had one this morning where, okay, we like this house, just came on yesterday. We're supposed to go today at noon. Right. And there's already two offers. They said, well, we don't want to be in a bidding war.
It's not really a bidding war.
It's not a bidding war at all because it's a bidding war assumes that we're going back and forth. You're just putting in your best offer, the same offer that you would have put in
regardless
that you would have negotiated to. So it's not a bidding war. But the thing is if it's a good house right now with 30% less homes on the market than a year ago when the market was already tight,
right?
30% less homes means that if it's a good house, you're not the only one. Mm-hmm. You're not the rare only person wanting to see that house.
Right.
Other people want to see it and other people were waiting for it.
Do you really want to buy a house that you're the only person that wants that house?
Why is that?
It's kind of like dating in your 40s.
Yeah.
Why is he still single?
Right. The only times I really see this happen now when they're sort of the only person is when it's priced so crazy high.
Yeah.
And, you should look at those houses too, because honestly, you never know. Maybe they're ready.
Yeah,
maybe they're ready to adjust.
When you think about it, we had 886 homes that closed in May. 886 closed, but only 316 new to kind of replace that with. So that's not a good balance.
Yeah.
And that was actually, closed sales were down from last year too by 8% because the year prior we closed 966 homes in the month of May.
But you had more homes coming on the market, so or replacement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then for the bad news.
I thought that was the bad news.
That's not the worst of it. So every month since the beginning of the year, I've been seeing like a decline in like our year-over-year median sales price, right? So it started out last year was crazy. The year before that was crazy. We were looking at like 22% increase in prices, which is not normal. Our normal is around 2 to 3%, I would say.
Yes.
And so it's been getting less and less with like 17% in January, and then it came down to like 16 something, and it's been coming down. And last month for April, we were at a 0% change.
Yes.
And I'm like, here it comes. Next month, we're going to see the negative, and it's here. So 2.3% decrease. Our median sales price was $366,115 for May 2023. In May 2022, it was $375.
And I think that's a direct result of the interest rate increasing.
Absolutely.
So people still have the same budget. They haven't made a huge increase in their salary or whatever their available funds to pay on a monthly basis. They still have the same down payment.
Right.
So they still have a set amount that they can pay per month. Yeah. Meanwhile, the interest rate's gone up.
Yes.
So the house they can afford has gone down.
Right. Yes. And I was reading an article this morning about the interest rates, and it was like, will they keep rising? And probably not. And we're getting moving closer to the 7% range. So this says for 30-year mortgages. But, you know, I had an interesting conversation with my dad over the weekend, and I was checking in with him, and he's like, how's real estate going? And I was like, oh, I'm a little slower right now. I said, but, you know, it's cyclical. It just, you know, it comes in waves, I feel like. It's never all steady. And he was like, well, all I keep hearing on the news is people complaining about these high interest rates. And I'm like, well, they're high compared to where we were. You know, these people that have like 2 3/4 or a 3% interest rate. I mean, that's living the good life. And he literally laughed out loud. And he was like, when your mother and I built this house, it was 1984. And he said, we had to get an adjustable rate mortgage to get our interest rate down to 14%. And I was like, now, granted, homes back then don't cost what they cost today.
Right.
So, you know, how much did that add
still
to their payment?
14%. And then Barbara Corcoran, I saw an interview with her, and she was talking about interest rates being 19%.
Well, that's what he said. He said the fixed rate then was 19%, and that's why they were like, absolutely not. So then he said, you know, what we did is we waited, and as soon as the fixed rate dropped to 11%, we refinanced. And he said, and then it dropped to 9%, and we refinanced again. And they kept doing that. Every time there was like a 2-point drop, they would refinance. And that's a great example of marrying the house and dating the rate, which is what everybody, you hear it from all these loan officers all the time, because they're like, just buy the house and, you know, get the mortgage now, and then you can always refinance, which is true. You can. I know we've refinanced our home. We've been there 7 years. I think we've refinanced it twice now to get our rate, you know.
And I refinanced, I refinanced my house once to get the rate down. And then I didn't do it again. I'm in the 3s. And when it went into the 2s, I was like, should I do it again? But it was not quite enough to make sense.
Make it worthwhile.
So I left it where it was.
Yeah.
But it is true. I mean, at some point you have to say, I'm going to buy a house. And I think these reductions a little bit in the overall, you know, what's the average price point, show that people still have a budget. They're sticking to their budget. They're still a little nervous about the economy, inflation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
They don't want to pay more monthly.
Right.
So they're going to pay less. And that's why you'll see multiple offers on a home, but they're not necessarily over list anymore.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily a bidding war, and people aren't spending exorbitant amounts of money over the listing price to get the home anymore. So I feel like people are being much more conservative.
Yeah.
And you think the sellers are coming around to that with their
I think they're having to, because you see these ones who are listing high, and it sits and sits and sits. And there is directly statistics that show that inverse relationship. When you list really high, you know, you'll see somebody who sold, let's say they listed at 580, 590 and initially, and the house was worth 525, and they listed that much off of. And meanwhile, everyone else is selling so suddenly they start decreasing, but they decrease a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And when they end up selling, it's not that the prices have gone down to that point, but everyone starts to wonder. I mean, I have buyers ask me, what's wrong with that house? Something's wrong with that house. Why has that house been sitting on the market? So I don't want to look at that house. Something's wrong with it. Yeah, what's wrong with it is they priced it wrong.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with it, but it ends up selling for $500 instead of $525.
That can also make you look unreasonable as a seller, and that could be another reason that a buyer wouldn't want to even go look, because they don't want to deal with another side that's going to be unreasonable negotiations. So,
right. Yeah, that too. So you definitely, you know, when you do price your home, you want to look, what are the current sale prices? Not from a year ago.
No, you need to be looking at like right now.
Yeah, last 3 months. You know, if you have to stretch out a little bit more to find good comps, you can stretch out a little bit more, but don't go crazy. Look at what's active on the market, what's moving, what's under contract.
And the stuff that is moving, how long did it sit on the market, and did they have to make price reductions in order to get down to where, you know, to actually go off the market pending.
Exactly. So now is not the time. Everybody's a little unsure, I think, that whole debt ceiling thing, which thank goodness they signed. At least I think we only have till January, though. I'm like,
we get 2 years out of that, right?
do we get 2 years? I read something that said something about it's good till January. I was like, what?
I think we have 2 years.
I hope we have 2 years. I'm really bad at politics. So if I say anything about politics, don't trust me. That's the rule of the day.
Right.
Carolyn doesn't know, but I do know that at least that's resolved, and so we can move on.
And these interest rates, too. So if you think about what people could afford a year ago with interest rates. There was these great tables that are produced by National Association of Realtors on their website by the county affordability. So it says that that for our median home value, which in Brevard County, the median home value as per NAR is $341,280. So a year ago, the mortgage on that would have been $1,010 a month. And I think this is just principal and interest only. I don't think it's not tax, definitely not homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
But today that same mortgage would be $1,770. That's a big jump.
Yeah, huge jump.
A year. Like, who can afford to add $700 a month to
and
the mortgage?
You're already paying more for groceries.
Yes.
You're paying more for clothes.
Yes.
All the things that have been impacted by inflation.
Yes.
You're paying more for those things already.
And don't forget to mention that we all here in Florida pay more for our homeowners insurance every single year it goes up.
Yes, they're going to have to address that at some point. Did you hear? So State Farm just pulled out of State Farm pulled out of Florida a long time ago, but they pulled out of California now.
Yeah, for homeowners insurance.
Yeah,
you can still get. They're like, we'll still give you car insurance.
Yeah.
We'll still give you life insurance. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
But the homes, no.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that won't write here because of our hurricanes and storm damage.
And I was saying for floods. So now I think I sent you that article. Whether it's true or not, I haven't found like the backup source, that there's a law now that the governor signed that within like 3 years, whether you're in a flood zone or not, you're going to be required to have flood insurance.
If you have citizens.
If you have citizens, right. If you have the insurer of last resort, you have to have flood insurance.
That they're going to require it,
And the majority of people in Florida, I think, have citizens.
Well, because there's so many that won't write here. And if you live in a coastal area, which there's a lot of area in Florida that's coastal or considered to be coastal within so many miles, that's a little scary.
So my flood insurance, my personal flood insurance, I'm in flood zone X, which says I don't need flood insurance. So I wouldn't have to have it. My insurance is not with Citizens, but it was $400 a year a few years ago. And I was like, it's worth having. I live on a barrier island. It is Florida.
Yeah.
You want to protect yourself. The renewal just came in at $795.
Wow.
From the National Flood Insurance.
Doubled.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's steep. And, of course, the regular insurance has gone up. So all these things are impacting people. So if you're a seller, I think you just have to be a little more reasonable. If you bought your home for $350,000 and now you're thinking it's worth $750 or $800, maybe you need to moderate a little bit. Maybe you need to be
a little more competitive.
Get your house sold, because we don't really know what's going to happen with the prices and inflation and interest rates and all these other things. Don't sit around waiting. And if you're a buyer, go ahead and buy.
Yeah, buy what you can afford, because think about it. When only good things can happen. Once you refinance, you're going to be saving money every month, and you were already at a point where you could afford it. Now you have extra money once you refinance.
Yeah.
So
it's not a bad thing.
That's a win, I feel like.
And I had somebody else who was just talking about, well, maybe I should just wait and rent for a year. And I'm like, to rent the house that you want, which is not the house that he would buy. It's a lesser house. He has pets. And, I said, I rented a similar house recently, West Melbourne, not fancy, $32.50 a month. Yeah. $32.50 a month over a year.
Oh, I saw a lady post on Facebook the other day. Her home in Vieira, new build. It's not brand new, but it's a couple years old. Beautiful home. And she's asking $3,900 a month, which for that neighborhood is very reasonable. And people were literally LOLing at it and like, oh, that's a lot for a rental. And I was like, you apparently don't know the rental market in Vieira, because that's pretty much on par. I just saw one in Vieira that went for $6,500 a month.
Crazy.
65. And it's, granted, a 3,000 square foot home. I think it has a pool.
But still.
A lot of the homes in Vieira are that size,
And that's not short-term rentals, because Vieira does not allow short-term rentals.
Full year rental.
1 year.
That, people would, that's so much money to pay for.
So much money. So if if you're thinking, well, I'll just rent and wait to see, prices aren't going to go down so much that makes sense.
And your rental prices aren't going to, what do you think that these people that own the homes are not going to need to, break even on their expenses, and they're going to give you a break because it's a rental and they have like the goodness of their hearts kind of situation? No, they're going to want to ask what it's worth. So.
Exactly.
That's all for this one, I think.
Yeah.
It's not all great news, that's for sure. But we want to be real with you and not try to make you think like everything's all unicorns and rainbows over here, because it's not. The market does change.
It does change. But go ahead, look for a house, buy a house. Don't think that it's going to be better in 6 months. That's, things are not going to be amazing in 6 months. If you're ready to buy, the best time to buy is when you're ready to buy. Buy within your budget, buy what you can afford. If you're ready to sell, be realistic. in what you can sell for, and you'll get your house sold. And call us. Our number is 321-422-2160. You can email us at hello@coastalestateteam.com. You can also see us on all our other channels. So please check us out. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. So check us out. We're everywhere. We're everywhere we possibly can be. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Sunny days, no clouds in the sky.